For some bows, the valley is very short, meaning if you start to let up, it's immediately wanting to take that string away from you. On some bows, that valley's longer, a little bit more forgiving, and you can kind of sit in the pocket a lot easier. And one style is preferred by some archers, and another is obviously going to be preferred by other ones too. That's why we have these options: high let-off cams, low let-off cams. Some cams that are speed cams are more aggressive and more demanding. Other ones, like I said, kind of, for me, allow you to be a little bit more lazy in the pocket. But there is a difference on where you're at in that valley, whether you pull back and you're at the front edge of that valley, or you're pulling a little bit harder just with how you anchor and how you like to be in the dynamics of your shot. You might be pulling harder on that as well. Or the flip side is you pull hard to begin with, but you start to just aim, and you focus on the aiming more so than the continual pull. And what'll happen is, instead of your arrow continually pulling and pulling and pulling and pulling like this, the arrow actually starts to creep forward and creep forward and creep forward. Now, this is something that some people who I've taught to shoot a tension release, they tell me I'm pulling as hard as I can, but I'm just looking at their arrow sitting on the rest, and I can see it just creeping forward and creeping forward and creeping forward. This is an indicator of either your leverage and how you're pulling, or also the collapse of that front shoulder. But this is something that you can monitor yourself, and something that really helps you understand the importance of that front shoulder being down and forward and being braced, and the continual pull against that back wall. So just like you saw there at the beginning, what you need to do is, if you draw your bow back and you put a camera in a place where, as you're raising up to that target, your bow is always in the same place in front of that camera, take a note of a reference point on your arrow, whether it's where that bushing sits on one of the decals on your riser, or where the front of your point of your arrow sits in relation to the front of your riser. Or you could also put a piece of tape on here, and when you draw back and it stops, have someone mark that tape with a line so that you can see a reference point on that line, so when you're at full draw. Now, when you have that and you've put a camera in that position, or if you're a coach or you're coaching someone and helping them with archery, this is something that is kind of fun to watch, because there's times where people tell you they're doing one thing, but clearly when you look at that reference, you realize they're doing something different. Now, an Olympic style recurve shooter who's using a clicker, this is really easy to watch for them, because as they continue to pull and pull and pull and pull, that arrow is sliding back past the clicker that's on their riser, and when they've pulled it past it, it'll click, and that's their indicator to let that arrow go. Now, with compound archers, we're not shooting clickers because most of our cams aren't that spongy, but your rear wall pressure is definitely relative to your accuracy on the target. I'll promise you that. So I'm going to make a few shots right here, and I'm going to just let you zoom in and take a look at, as I'm shooting the release that I'm using right now, I'm using my silverback, as I'm letting off and slowly building pressure and trusting that float. I want you to be able to see that reference and visualize that. And then towards the end, I'll kind of let you see what happens if my shoulder starts to creep and I start to relax, and you'll be able to see that arrow go forward. But let's make a couple good shots here first. And make sure my sight's set. All right. Okay, I am on my pocket, and I'm in the place I like on my valley right now. I am now letting off my safety, and I'm pulling, Pull, 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 till that shot goes off. All right. Now, I'm gonna do this again, only this time, I'm gonna intentionally pull, I'm gonna have a little bit more preload. So I'm gonna pull just a little bit harder before I let off my safety and then continue my pull. So, raise up, draw, I have a little bit more on that wall right now than before, letting off my safety, and you can see that shot activated much faster than the first one, but you could see the difference on that pull pressure. Now this is something that is such a refined skill. This is a mind-muscle connection, and it is very, very finite. And this is something that only comes with reps. And it's something that, honestly, even when I change bows, the one thing that I try to reduce the amount of changing I do is the cam system, because that feel and that finesse really does separate different levels of archers, is understanding that pull, that power curve, and that feel and that finesse. So that's why, even though I've changed models a few times, I like sticking with the same cam system, because I'm not completely changing my feel. I'm just changing my fit. So learning this really small skill of what to feel on your back wall, it is awesome once you learn to do it. But I will warn you, the more you change this part of the equation, especially if you're a new archer, the longer it's going to take for you to understand this finesse. This is something that comes with reps and staying with the same thing. The more you change this equation, the harder it is for your mind, and your muscles are going to be to understand what that preload and what that feel is like. So try to stay on one type of system if you're working on this. Don't bounce around on it. But I will tell you, if you dedicate a season to one cam and dedicate a season to really focusing on your back wall pressure and your pull through, you are going to change your own game, trust me. All right, here we go. One more time for a perfect one. Letting off my safety. Pull, 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 pull. Right in.